Ratnagar.
How are you all doing?
Good so far. How are you?
I am good. I am good. How are you?
Yeah, so far good. Yeah.
Your voice is a little bit feeble. Is it just only for me?
Uh, I
Now
don't
it's good.
know. Yeah, now it's better. Okay.
Yeah. Where is the video? I'm not seeing the video. Stop share. So we'll give 2 more minutes. Okay. So Ratnagar, you're working from home, right?
Yeah, yes, Rajesh.
That's good. You're working in city, right? You're in New York.
No, actually, my client is in California, so I'm working remotely. Actually,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. How about you? You are working from home as well?
Yeah. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So it's 8 o'clock. We can get started. We'll go ahead and update the title, but let's listen to the prayer.
सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Okay, welcome back. So we are on the 14th lesson. And today's topic is, interestingly, Shrishti, loosely translated as creation. So we'll talk about that. Very interestingly, we are sometimes what happens, different path merges. So in the Bhagavad Gita also we are exactly on the same topic, and the Vedanta also so happened that everything is converging at the same point, which is really good. So first 5 minutes, just listen to me very carefully, because I really wanted to connect the dots, because we really means the purpose of this series is to get us ready for the serious Vedantic studies, such as Upanishad or Brahma Sutra, etc. So when you approach a technical book, usually you need to be familiar with the terminologies, vocabularies, the basic concepts, so that higher studies becomes easier. So that is the purpose of this introduction to Vedanta class. So to make that very clear, we started by defining what is Vedanta. We defined Vedanta as any body of knowledge which talks about the end portions of the Veda. Because we saw that Vedas itself has 4 portions. You have mantra or samhita, we have aranyaka, we have brahmana, and the last portion is known as Upanishads. So these are the divisions of Vedas. Every Vedas has that fourfold division. And as you know, right, there are 4 Vedas: Rik, Yajus, Sama, and Atharva. And also we found that these Vedas are apaurusheyam. It is not the creation of any human intellect. These Vedas were the revelations, or what the ancient seers, rishis, found in their deep contemplation. So we believe that these words are directly coming from the higher to these rishis. The rishis just collected this and they documented this. And when they documented this, there are 3 styles they use to document these Vedas. A certain portion of the Vedas were documented as in the form of padya or shloka with a particular meter. So that is padya version. And some portion of the Vedas was documented, some revelations were documented in the form of gedya, meaning prose, and some portions were documented in the form of song. So gedya, padya, and gana. And later what happened was, Vedavyasa, the great saint, he compiled these collections into 4 Vedas. And whatever he compiled, whatever that is written in the form of the poetry, he compiled into one Veda called Rik Veda. And whatever that is Gedya is compiled into Yajur Veda. And whatever that is Gana is compiled into Sama Veda. And all these mixtures were then in the 4th Veda, it is called Atharva Veda. So the Veda style is, it could be Padya, or it could be Gedya, or it could be Gana. And that's why the Vedas are known as Trayi. That is another name known for the Veda, Trayi. Because it can be expressed in the form of Gedya, Padya, and Gana. So these Gedya, Padya, Gana compilations were organized into 4 different Vedas: Rik, Yajus, Sama, and Atharva. And Rik is predominantly or mainly it is the Padya compilation. Yajurveda is mainly the Gedya compilation. Samaveda is Gana compilation. And you can see the notes also. There are 4 notes. Anudatta, Udatta, Suritam. There are 4 notes were given. So you can chant using that notes or sing using that notes. And Atharva has everything. And each of these Vedas has 4-fold division. There is Samhita, which is the mantra. Then you have the Aranyaka. Then you have Brahmanas. And then you have the Upanishad. So these are the 4 portions. And whatever that comes under the Upanishad, because Upanishad, the word meaning itself is a definite knowledge about myself. That is what constitutes the Vedanta. The first 3 portions are used for seeking the material benefit, economic, social welfare. That is the key goal of the first 3 portions, which is predominantly known as the Karma Kandas of the Veda. So on a high level, it can be divided as Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. And the Karma Kanda constitutes of the first 3, Mantra, Brahmana, and Aranyaka. Whereas the knowledge about myself, knowledge about Ishvara, all that is compiled into this Upanishads, and that is what is known as Vedanta. And then based on there are other books and other literature came based on the teachings of this Upanishads. And Vedanta on a broad sense is all these put together is Vedanta. So in Vedanta, there are 3 major canonical scriptures. First one is Upanishads, and the second one is Bhagavad Gita, and the third one is Brahma Sutra. So these are the major textbooks of Vedanta. And we know that approximately 1200 Upanishads are there, because one of the Upanishads tells that there is 1200 plus Upanishads are there. Patanjali, the great sage who compiled the Yoga Sutra, he calls it as around 1080 Upanishads are there, but no, more or less more than 1000 Upanishads were there. But right now we have approximately 108 Upanishads. Definitely we have 200 plus Upanishads we have, and 108 Upanishads are considered as the important Upanishads. But even within that 108 Upanishads, 10 Upanishads are considered as the Mukhya Upanishads. These are the Upanishads for which Shankaracharya written a commentary. So then that plus Bhagavad Gita plus the Brahma Sutra constitutes the entire Vedantic literature. So now then we found that why we need to study the Upanishads. So we talked about the different human pursuits, Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha. And we found that Moksha is nothing but freedom from all sufferings. So that is what the goal of all these Vedanta, to give us freedom from all sufferings. And remember, we spent a lot of time and we discussed pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So that's one point we highlighted there. And then we saw why an individual suffer, why an individual is subjected to sorrow. We found that that is the fundamental problem, because the financial problem today or the corona issue today, that is a problem at a time for a set of people. But even if I get out of that, I'm still subjected to sorrow. Another problem can come tomorrow. So how can I retune myself so that I'm not subjected to sorrow? So that's what the goal of moksha. So why I feel insecure and unhappy. So Vedanta comes here and make a hypothesis saying that you don't know yourself properly. When you don't know yourself properly, what you seek, what you feel, what you think, everything is completely dependent on what you understand about yourself. If you understand yourself as a cat, you feel like a cat, even though you are not a cat. So if I don't, means we took one example at that point of time. If you remember, the wrong perception, how much fear and anxiety it can create. Remember, we talked about 3 people seeing a rope, and one person saw that as a rope, the other person didn't even see it, and the third person saw that as a snake. The person didn't see it, he didn't have any problem. The person who saw that properly, that he also don't have a problem. But the person who misinterpreted that had a big problem. So we saw that when there is a misinterpretation, here you are misinterpreting yourself, not anybody else. I'm not seeing a snake as a rope or a rope as a snake. I'm not seeing myself as myself. I'm seeing something different in me. So my self-judgment has some problem. It's an hypothesis. So when a perception is not correct, when I'm not able to perceive something properly, the solution is use a proper means of knowledge. If I'm not seeing that snake properly, what should I do? I should use a proper means of knowledge, meaning I have to make sure that there is enough light, and I'm using, if I don't have a glass, I use the glass and look at the rope. I see that as a rope, not as a snake. So if there is an error in perception, I have to correct that by using the proper means of knowledge. So here the problem is, if I am not understanding myself properly, what is the solution? I need to employ a proper means of knowledge to know myself. And what is that proper means of knowledge to be employed here? So at that point of time, we paused and we had a good discussion on what are all the different means of knowledge available to me. So we said we went through 6 different means of knowledge: Pratyaksha, Anumana, Vedas, Agamas. Then we saw Arthaparti, Anupalapti, and Upamana. Then we said like all these can be combined into 3 major buckets: Pratyaksha, direct perception; Anumana, which is the inference; and the third one is Agama, which is the Veda. Patanjali tells in the Yoga Sutra, Pratyakshanumana Gama Pramanadhi. So this is the different means of knowledge that is available to take any knowledge. So here, what exactly is the means of knowledge I need to use for knowing myself? Pratyaksha won't work. Anumana won't work. So the only means of knowledge here that is going to work is scriptures. So here Vedanta is presented as a means of knowledge. Just I use my eyes to see the world around me. I need to use Vedanta as a means of knowledge to know myself. So that is what we discussed on the fourth lesson, Vedanta as a pramana. And then we said, right, any means of knowledge to work, for any means of knowledge to work properly, there has to be some appropriate condition. For example, I is a pratyaksha pramana. But for me to use my eye and see something, there has to be light. If there is not enough light, I cannot see it. For another example, if I need a reading glass, even if the book is in front of me, if my eye open, I cannot read because I need to have the glass. So what exactly is the prerequisites for using Vedanta as a pramana? We saw that is what is known as adhikaratvam. And we found 4 of such adhikaratvam. Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. So this is Viveka, which is the discrimination or discernment, dispassion, Vairagya, desire for liberation, and certain disciplines, 6-fold disciplines we saw. Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and then Samadhana. All these we discussed in detail. Any questions? Please refer that video. Then next question is, when I heard about these prerequisites, I found that forget about moksha. I don't have even the prerequisites. I don't have even the prerequisites. So the first goal should be, how do I gain the prerequisites? So the I don't have the prerequisites because of 2 problems. We saw that. One is the impurities of the mind. Second one is the discipline or the control of the mind. So chitta shuddhi we need and chitta sthiti we need. So for that, there are 2 practices or 2 disciplines were prescribed. One is called karma yoga, which will clean the mind, which will give the chitta shuddhi. And the second one is upasana yoga, which is going to give me the chitta sthiti, stability. So this is what we saw, how to gain the pre-qualification. So once we gain the pre-qualification, how do I try to know myself? Because I'm ready to use Vedanta as a pramana. When I'm ready to use Vedanta as a pramana, I need to use the teachings of the Vedanta. So here, there are some teaching methodologies called prakriyas were prescribed. The first one we saw was Drik Drishya Viveka, the difference between observer and observed. So we did a 3-fold analysis. When I am seeing a flower, who is the seer and who is the seen? And first stage, my eyes is the seer, whereas the flower is the seen. And the second stage, the image captured by my eyes is the seen, whereas my mind is the seer. And the third level, the image formulated, the mental event, which is called the chitta vritti. In my mind is the seen, and who is the seer? The consciousness in me. So who is the real seer? The real seer is my consciousness. This is what the methodology Dridrishya Viveka uses. It's a very powerful methodology. And then we used certain other teaching methodologies like Shariratraya. We saw that in our system, for a jiva, there are 3 different bodies. One is the physical body, the second one is the subtle body, and the third one is the causal body. We talked about that in detail in the previous classes. So what exactly is the longevity? What is the nature? Who can perceive that? All that is being discussed. So the physical body will born at the time of the birth of me, meaning there is no birth for me, but that's a different. And then at the death, what is going to be destroyed is the physical body. But my personality is provided to me by my subtle body called Sukshma Sharira. And we saw that there are 19 components for this subtle body. And then there is a causal body. Then the duration of the subtle body will be created at the beginning of the Shrishti, at the beginning of the creation. So at the beginning of the creation, the subtle body will be created, and that subtle body will take different birth based on the laws of karma. And potentially it can go even at the end of the cycle, which is called pralaya. The beginning of the cycle is known as prabhava. The end of the cycle is known as pralaya. It can go up to that. And at the time of pralaya, what is going to happen? The subtle body will be dismantled completely, and it will become a karana sharira. It goes to a seed form, and that will go to the undifferentiated manifestation of the universe. And when the next cycle happens, what happens? From this karana sharira, the subtle body will be created, and from the subtle body, the physical body is created. This is a matter of belief. I cannot prove it, I cannot disprove it. So this is the Shariratraya. The reason why we explain the Shariratraya is just to show that I am neither the physical body, nor the subtle body, nor the causal body. So we talked about that. And then we talked about another dicing and slicing of the human personality. It is called Pancha Kosha. Based upon the functionality, my system, human system, is divided into 5 major functions: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. The reason for that is again to show that I am neither of them. I am neither the Panchakosha, I am neither the Annamaya, nor the Pranamaya, nor the Vijnanamaya, nor the Anandamaya. Again, we came to the topic called Avasthatraya. Even in one life itself, what happens? I get 3 different experiences. Wakeful, I am in the waking state of consciousness. When I am dreaming, I am conscious, not conscious of the external world. I am conscious of my dream world. So just like a frog moves from one leaf to the other, my consciousness, whatever that is projected in front of the consciousness, that is what my experience is. This is again to show that the experience you are getting, it might be coming from a real source, or it be coming from a illusioned source. But whatever experience comes to you, you believe that. When you are in a dream, you always believe in that dream. That is the classic example. So the Avasthatraya is shown that the different experience projected to me gives me the experience of the world. So then the question comes, if I am none of this, who is me? We come to the discussion that my real nature is Atma, the consciousness. So there we talked about the example of the hardware and software, the same example we used in the Bhagavad Gita. It is the electricity, or it is like that sun which reflects in hundreds of buckets of water. And what is the nature of this Atma? We talked about 6 or 7-fold nature, which we talked about in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The Atma is Sarvagataha, it is all-pervading, it is Nityaha, it is Satyaha, it is Sanatanaha, it is eternal, and it is changeless, it is non-moving. All that feature we discussed. And we found that there is only one Atma for the entire world. And then we talked about one lesson, we talked about the problem of identification and attachment. So if my real nature is Atma, why I am not experiencing? The problem, we said, there are 2 reasons for human suffering. One is we identify ourselves with a gadget we have, because the physical body is a powerful gadget given to me. The subtle body is also a powerful gadget given to me. And when I use these gadgets, I get attached or identified with these gadgets. When I identify with this gadget, I take all the limitations of the gadget as myself. I take I take the gadget as myself. We talked about several examples at that point of time. If you remember, we talked about, if I identified with a car, what is going to happen? When the car gets a scratch, I feel that I got scratched. So I'm identifying with that gadget. That is what the problem is. Second problem is what? When I identify with that gadget, I get attached with something else also, because I feel that attachment means it is not the love. It is the emotional dependency we are talking. I feel that X, Y, Z needs to be there in a particular form or a particular way for me to get happy. So that is what the problem of identification and attachment. So this is an internal inquiry. We were trying to look ourselves and try to understand ourselves. So at this point of time, we have to we have to turn at a corner. So last week we started that discussion. So turning the corner, we said, okay, so far I looked into myself. Now, what is the next mode of inquiry? The next mode of inquiry is, instead of looking at me, I'm looking outside the world, and try to understand what exactly it is. And then you need to reconcile that too. So for that, we said that when I look outside, I see a world of plurality. I see billions of objects around me. Like some of them are living being, some of them are non-living being. It's completely diverse, and you can see a vast manifestation of life and non-living being in the universe. So for our methodology, for trying to understand, a very powerful teaching methodology was introduced, which was the orders of reality. We talked about the 3 orders of reality, which is pradibhas, means paramarthika, vyavaharika, and pradibhasika. So we talked about absolute reality, relative reality, and illusionary reality. There is no existence for the illusionary reality, only a relative existence for the relative reality, and there is a permanent existence for the absolute reality. So if this much is clear, we can continue. So I just recapped, as a lot of people joined and some people wanted me to do a 15 minutes recap of the entire session. I got a few messages. Sorry for the old regular attendees.
That's good. Every once in a while, it's good. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to enter into a interesting question. What exactly is the cosmology explained by the Vedas? So we'll try to see that. So Shrishti, that is the word. First of all, we are going to understand 3 or 4 topics here. First is, what is the proper meaning of this Shrishti or creation? Second one is, what was there before the creation, and how did the creation happen, and what are the different stages of creation? This is what we are going to discuss today. So the first thing is creation versus manifestation. Per the vision of Veda, nothing can be created or destroyed. This is very explicit in Mandukya Upanishad Karika. It clearly tells you can neither create nor destroy anything. Does that sound logical? If it is not, it is illogical, correct?
True.
If it is such a beautiful idea, nothing can be created or destroyed. So the word creation is really inaccurate. So that's why we use the word Shrishti. Shrishti means it is not creation. It is kind of a manifestation. So the more appropriate word is manifestation. Manifestation means something which was already existed in an unmanifested state became visible to me or became visible to the world. That's it. So the word Shrishti refers to the dormant, unmanifested something came into manifestation. This is what it means. When Swami Vivekananda was explaining this, he said, like, I won't insult you guys to believe in a blind creation theory. That is what, something out of nothing is completely illogical. I would not insult your intellect by asking you to believe that. That's the language he has used. So the first point we need to consider here is the universe we are seeing, right? So even in artificial intelligence, we see that. What you know, you will take it. And from there, you go backward, backward, backward. In math, we call it as backward propagation. In calculus, we do that. In all these math calculations, we do that. So what we are seeing is a universe which is manifested. So manifested world is pramana gochara. That's what the Shastras talk. That which is available for my experience is what is differentiated universe. But before this differentiated universe manifest, there is another form of universe, which is an unmanifested universe or undifferentiated universe. The definition of this unmanifested universe is that which is not available for my perception or transaction. It is pramana agocharam. Pramana agocharam avyaktam. This is the definition given by the Upanishads. So everything we see in the creation right now, when I use the word creation, please note that it is a convenient word. It is only used for Shrishti. So everything we see in the creation was always existed in a potential form. And at the beginning of the cycle, it got manifested. That's all. The scriptures tells that before the cosmos came into manifestation, it should have existed somewhere. And we call it as in the form of a bijam, seed, or unmanifested potential. This is the undifferentiated universe. So the differentiated universe comes from the undifferentiated universe. So when we were studying the Bhagavad Gita second chapter in North Brunswick, if you remember, before we getting into verse 11, I spent some time on Shankara's commentary, introducing Shankaracharya. So I started reading the first verse of his introduction. The first verse of his introduction is Narayana Parovyaktat Andam Andasya Sambhavam Andasyandasya me loka Saptadipacha Medini. This is how the creation is introduced by Shankaracharya. He tells Narayana. What is the meaning of Narayana? Anybody?
All pervading.
No, that is Vishnu. Narayana means that he who is in everything. He who is everything. He who is in everything. That is the literal meaning of the word Narayana. Reference Vishnu Sahasranama. So there are multiple meanings. One is there is a Nara. There is another meaning called Jalam. So the one who lies on Jalam is Narayana. Means that is the Puranic interpretation. But there is a beautiful interpretation which tells that that which is in every being, every object, that is Narayana. So that Narayana, which is referred as the absolute reality or the Brahman, that Narayana is the primordial cause of this universe. It is the uncaused cause. Remember in the 7th chapter, we saw that, right? Gita, Krishna explaining that. I am the uncaused cause. Matta paradaram na asti kinchit asti dhananjaya. This was the verse we saw on Tuesday. There is no cause for me. I am there always. I am there every time, every periods of time, whether it is pralaya or prabhava, beginning of the cycle, end of the cycle, I am changeless. I am there always. So that Narayana or the absolute reality, or we call it as Brahman, that is always there. And from this Narayana, what comes out? This undifferentiated universe comes out. This undifferentiated universe is potentially called as Maya. That is the terminology, right? So from this undifferentiated universe, the entire material principles comes out. So the bijam of the entire creation, the seed of the entire creation is in the universe with Narayana, And from this Narayana, what happens? This undifferentiated universe comes out. So a couple of things. This undifferentiated universe, the seed of the creation, that is the source form of all energy and all forms of matter. Includes all the particles and molecules in the universe. Includes all the three bodies we talked earlier. The physical, subtle, and causal. All the laws of the universe, whether it is laws of motion, whether it is the law theory of relativity, whether it is the quantum mechanics, all the laws are part of this undifferentiated universe. It comes from that. And the manifested universe comes out of this unmanifested universe at the time of the creation. So what happens is, from Narayana, this unmanifested universe comes. From the unmanifested universe, the manifested universe comes. This is the two stages of creation. Our scriptures talks about this extensively, these two stages of creation. So one cause, which is this undifferentiated universe, accounts for the entire material creation. And we saw this in a different name in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 7. If you remember, the absolute is referred as Paraprakriti. So on verse 4 and 5, Krishna tells, I have two nature. One is called Aparaprakriti and the other one is called Paraprakriti. And Paraprakriti is my Surupa, whereas Aparaprakriti is my Sobhava. Paraprakriti is known as Ananya Adhishthana. Again, don't get worried, don't confuse with these words. I'm just introducing these technical terms. Because when we go to Upanishads, we are going to come across all these terminologies. It is called Ananya Adhishtanam, meaning it is not depending upon anything else for its existence. It's a big word. If I take a pen, if I take a pot, that pot is depending upon something for its existence. What is that?
Clay.
Clay. And if you take the clay, that clay is dependent upon something else for its existence. Correct?
Yeah.
It could be the atoms. And if you take the atoms, that atoms are depending upon something else for its existence. I may call it a subatomic particle or the quarks. These quarks are dependent upon something for its existence. So those are not Ananya Adhishtanam because they are not independently existing. They dependent upon something else for its existence. So theoretically, if you go back, there should be something which is not dependent upon anything for its existence. And that is what is called as Ananya Adhishtanam. And that is what is the absolute reality here. Whereas the undifferentiated universe, again, it depending upon something else for its existence. That is absolute reality. So absolute reality, from the absolute reality, this Apara Prakriti or undifferentiated universe comes. From this undifferentiated universe, the entire material world is going to come. And Krishna defines this Apara Prakriti in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, as eightfold components. In some other division, Sankhya, if you go, there are 22 components. In Vedanta, if you go, there are 19 components. So the dicing and slicing can vary depending upon the model you use. And I would always go with the simple model. The simple model is eightfold model. Pinnaha Prakriti Ashtadaha. So we saw that 5 elements, right? 5 states of matter: earth, water, air, fire, and space. And then the subtle matter, which is the Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara. The combination of this, the gross matter or the physical matter, the subtle matter, the combination of this is the entire world of names and forms. So from, again, just remember this. From the absolute, what happened? What got manifested? This Apara Prakriti got manifested. These basic components got manifested. From these basic components, how it got manifested means the entire material world got manifested. And there is another property for this absolute. What is that? What is the Surupa of this absolute reality? It is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. That is the nature of this absolute reality. So once again, means I have the diagram. So prior to the creation, what was there? Prior to the creation, the Upanishad says there was only absolute reality. It is referred as Sat Vastu. What is Sat? Trikala Abadidam. That which is not subjected to change in 3 periods of time. And this Sat Vastu is known as Brahman or absolute reality. And its nature, it is said that Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Those who are interested in this topic, please go to YouTube and do a search. God defined. There is a brilliant talk given by Swami Sarvapriyanandaji.
What is your topic?
God defined.
God defined.
Very recently only, means I was just the other day I was talking to Swamiji on this topic, and he said, yeah, and he gave a lecture in Los Angeles on this topic, and I really like the way he defined it, titled it. So what he did was, this is a big word like Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. He tried to unpack and expand each of these words. What is Satyam? What is Satyam? You meant that is truth. That's all transactional usage. Satyam means that which is not subjected to change. And it is all full of knowledge, complete knowledge. And then it is Anantam. It is infinite. And I also said, right, a couple of weeks I said, when we talk here, these words are not loosely used. Like in math, they use the word infinity. And there are multiple infinities, right? Multiple series of infinities were there. So there are, sorry, just got message. Yeah. Vijay, if you are in the call, no, we don't have meeting today. Any other meeting at 8:30 because this class is there. Sorry about that. So let me go back. Yep. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So the word Anantam indicates that it is infinity. So that is beautifully defined in the Upanishad. It is defined as 3 conditions given. One is Desha Parichinna. Second one is Kala Parichinna. And the third one is Vastu Parichinna. So that which is not conditioned by space, that which is not conditioned by time, and that which is not conditioned by being an object. So this is the nature of the absolute reality. I know that this is impossible, right? So Upanishad tells, now you say that, how, explain me more. I'm helpless. So what the Rishis tells is, Yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasasaha. That from which all my objects of perception retreats. That in by which all my mental faculties retreats. Poetically he said, but practically what does that mean? I fail to understand it. So with the usual means of knowledge, I cannot understand it. The only way I can understand is through the scripture. So at the one more point is, so we talked about this Brahman, absolute reality, and please understand that at this level, right, this Satvastu is the Atma we talked earlier. At the context of an individual, this Satvastu exists, and at the context of an individual, this is known as Atma. So in other words, the Brahman we talk here, and in the Atma we talked in the first enquiry, both of them are same. So we are going to see this later. Jiva Brahma Aikyam. One topic we are going to, that is going to be our final concluding topic. What is the connection between this individual and the absolute? So we are going to see that, but just for your understanding, because it's only terminologies. There is Atma is not different from Brahman. So the only difference is at the microcosm level. It is, we call it as Atma, and the macrocosm level, we call it as Brahman. It can be used interchangeably, absolutely no problem. But don't get confused, because when you say Atma, most of the people think Atma as the subtle body. That is where the first mistake happens. So that then when you try to equate that subtle body with the absolute reality Brahman, it won't connect. Naturally, it won't connect because they two are completely different. So that's why I spend a lot of time in drilling down what is not Atma. And finally, here we are explaining what is Brahman. So let's go. So we saw this very same slide in the Bhagavad Gita class. This is the idea. So the stages of Shrishti. The stages of Srishti means it starts with the absolute reality, which is the para prakriti. From the absolute reality, the undifferentiated universe comes out, which is known as apara prakriti. And then from the undifferentiated universe, all the non-living beings comes. The world of matter comes from all the undifferentiated universe. And for the living body, living being, right, the body comes from the undifferentiated universe. But that body, when it has subtle body, it can reflect the absolute reality. So that's why the consciousness for a living being. So that is what Krishna said, right? Apareyam idastanna prakritim vitthime para jiva bhudam mahabahu yayedam dharyate jagat. I am the one who gives the life to the living being. My Swarupa, right? There is a Swarupa and Swabhava. Swarupa, my real nature, the real nature of Brahman is consciousness. It is known as Sat, Chit, Ananda. Another three words. Sat means existence. It provides existence to everything. It provides consciousness to everything. And finally, what do you call? It is of the nature of unlimited happiness. When you know that, what you are getting is unlimited contentment. So this is the stages of the creation. So I really wanted to, means three topics I wanted to talk, right? First one is, what is, four topics. What are the different, what is the actual meaning of creation? We talked about that. We talked about the creation is not creating something out of nothing. And in the Bhagavad Gita class, I talked about the various prevalent theories in different schools of thought. So in our Vaisheshika and Nyaya, they talk about Asatkaryavada. And if you can see, like in the Mandukya Upanishad, that portion is completely negated. Gautapada Acharya, in his Karyaka, he refutes or confronts that particular point. So Asatkaryavada means something came out of nothing. And Mandukya Upanishad itself calls that out. It is impossible for something to come out of nothing. It has to be there in one form or the other. So the Upanishad tells nothing can be created, nothing can be destroyed. What you can do is you can change the form from one form to the other. Is that familiar to you in your secular education?
Very much.
Yes, yes.
5,000 years back, it is written, nothing can be created, nothing can be destroyed. What you can do is change from one form to the other. Reference Mandukya Upanishad.
So this Rajesh, this undifferentiated universe, other than we call it as apara prakriti, and any other names we have?
Avyakta.
Vyakta. So
Avyakta.
basically, there are two stages. Basically, one is from para prakriti we get this apara prakriti, and from that we get all the living beings.
Matter. All the matter.
Okay.
So Rajaji, you mentioned this last time, but wanted to ask again, the subtle body, does that come from para prakriti or apara prakriti?
It's from apara prakriti, because apara prakriti has physical matter and subtle matter. So the subtle matter creates the subtle body.
Okay. Now, non-living beings don't have the subtle body.
Correct. Non-living beings do not have subtle body, That is why you won't see an expression of life. Even though the Atma is everywhere, since the subtle body is not there, you won't see them as living being.
Okay.
So I gave you the example. The bucket is there, but the water is not there. So even though the sunlight is lighting all the buckets exactly the same, since there is no water, you won't see that reflection of the sun. And again, I talked about a couple of different scenarios. Even though there is water, if that water is muddy, you may see the sun, but you may not see the real sun. You will see a muddy sun. And sometimes what happens? The water is turbulent, shaky. So you may not see a stationary sun. You may see a dancing sun. And that is why Krishna said in the 7th chapter, that's why I love the 7th chapter. It is such a brilliant chapter. It just, this whole Srishti Prakriya is unfolded in a very systematic form in that 7th chapter. He tells, right, even though everything is me, the entire world is me, the sinner is me, the saint is me, but the difference between a sinner and a saint, again, I'm using loose word. Don't tell me why you are calling a person sinner. That's not the intention. I'm just saying that a person who is doing bad deeds, nobody is sinner, nobody is saint from absolute perspective. So a person doing bad action, like a Hitler and a Vivekananda, if you take, only bad actions manifested through Hitler, whereas only compassion and love came out of Jesus. Why the difference? If the matter of, means the body of Jesus came from Ishvara, or the absolute reality, and the body of Hitler also came from Brahman. And the consciousness that enlivens Vivekananda or Jesus is same as that of the consciousness that enlivens Bin Laden or even a Hitler. The difference is not in the consciousness, it is in the subtle body. If the subtle body is polluted, the reflection, even if that of a sun, I told you two examples. One time it will be muddied, and the other time it will be dancing. So Krishna says, if you want to see me, there is no way for you to see me in the absolute form, because absolute is not perceivable. Forget about the absolute. Even the undifferentiated universe is not perceivable for you. So the only way you can see me is when the inner equipment is pure, or in some cases, in a lot of cases in the universe, you can see me expressing properly. And that is what is known as Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti Yoga is the ability to see the glories of Ishvara through its manifestation in the universe. So remember, we talked about 9 examples on Sunday, right? Rasohamapsu kaunteya, prabhasmi shashishureyu, pranavas sarvabhuteshu, shabdakhe paurusham vishu, right? Punyo gantha pradishtana. That we are going to see more. 14 examples were given in the 7th chapter. Wherever you see a glory, you can see that reflection of the sun is coming out properly. So let me go back and recap the 4 questions I was trying to answer. First is, you understood what is the real meaning of Srishti. Srishti is not creation. Even though we use the word creation, whenever we use the word creation, know that it is only a manifestation, not a creation. Because the pramana is Mandukya Upanishad Karika. We talked about that. Nothing can be created, nothing can be destroyed. So the Asatkaryavada is not what we agree. And again, I said, like, there are in Veda, I mean, in the Veda itself, there are another school of thought, Satkaryavada. In the Satkaryavada itself, there are 2 schools. One is called Parinamavada, the other one is called Vivartavada. Parinamavada means what? The God, a portion of the God has transformed itself into world. But what happens? In that transformation, the world do not have the God. Whereas Vivartavada tells the God is pretty much in the universe. I was reading Shankaracharya. He gives a brilliant comment to illustrate this. He tells, like, take a pot and you weigh the clay of that pot. let's say that that clay is 3 pounds. When you weigh the pot, what would be the weight of that pot? Again 3 pounds.
3 pounds.
There is no pot other than names and forms. The pot happened to be the clay. So like that, the God, the Brahman, the Ishvara is there every time. So that is Vivartavada. Whereas if it was Parinamavada, when the pupa turns to a butterfly, butterfly do not have any characteristics of pupa. Pupa disappeared and butterfly is born. This is not like that. So that is very important. So the second question we were answering was, what is the creation? What was there prior to the creation? We said prior to the creation, there was only one thing, which is called Satvastu, which is called absolute reality, which is called the Paraprakriti, which is called as Brahman. And this Brahman happens to be same as that of Atma. Then we talked about how the creation happened. What is the process of creation? So and that is the stages of creation. So from the absolute, what came out? Undifferentiated universe came out. And in that undifferentiated universe, there were 8 components. From that 8 components, in the second stage, what happened? The entire material world came. Physical matter and the subtle matter came from the undifferentiated universe. And wherever there is subtle body, what happened? The absolute reflects itself through the consciousness. So this is the stages of the creation. And at the end of the creation, what is going to happen? Every living being and non-living being goes back to this undifferentiated universe, which again goes back to the absolute in a seed form. That's it. Nothing remains. That is the cycle. In the next beginning of the cycle, even for the individual, it is like that, right? There is a physical body, there is a subtle body, and there is a causal body. So at the time of the end of the cycle, even the subtle body will be dismantled. We talked about that in detail when we were talking about the Shariratraya. The subtle body will be dismantled and it will be merged back into the absolute. So this is the very high level overview of the creation. And we are going to see in Chandogya Upanishad this in detail. In much detail you can ever imagine it. So Shankaracharya's, we'll see with Shankaracharya's commentary later, with in the Chandogya Upanishad. It is
sorry, Rajesh. So this 2-step process that is referred in Chandogya Upanishad.
Yeah. So the problem is, right, as I was explaining, every Upanishad talks about, because we are covering all these topics. Each of these topics comes from one Upanishad. So what I was trying to do was putting everything together and create a holistic picture. Then when we go to one Upanishad, it makes sense to you, because otherwise Gaudapatacharya or Shankaracharya assumes that you studied all these fundamentals.
But this undifferentiated characteristic, that is also a characteristic of the Brahman.
It's not a characteristic. It came out of the Brahman.
Okay.
Brahman do not have any characteristics.
Yeah.
Right? It is attributeless.
Yeah.
I know that it is metaphysical. It is hard to perceive. But means another way to look at this is, so now you know what exactly is the theory or the creation we are talking. Compare with any other schools, just from a sheer logical perspective. The beauty of this. And this is, even the scientists cannot say no to this. And I explained the story of Erwin Schrödinger, who is the founder of quantum mechanics, who got completely perplexed seeing this. And he wrote a book called What is Life? Anybody interested? You can read that. What is Life by Erwin Schrödinger. It is entirely based on this Vedanta. Max Planck, who is another physicist, genius, he was impressed by this. There are so many physicists Dr. E.C.G. Sudarshan. I had a chance to meet with him and interact with him. He was born Christian, George Sudarshan. He, after coming to this physics and all, he got completely fed up with these conventional religious thoughts. At that time, he was introduced to Vedanta. He became an ardent fan of Vedanta. Dr. Sudarshan is known for his discovery on tachyons. Have you heard of this? Tachyons?
Yeah.
It was a hypothesis. He was almost the final final position in getting a Nobel Prize. That much genius he was. So this is, a lot of scientists are there who are a big admirers of this Vedanta. So how is everybody's reading going on? Like we suggested a few books, and also any books you guys feel, because now all of us are sitting home. One thing we can use is enhance our skills, because continuous learning is absolutely required. It doesn't matter whether you are 80 or 90 or 20 or 15. I saw that this Amazon Audible, they are making all their stories free now. So I started listening to all these folk tales, like the story of Grimm, the story of Aesop, the Japanese folk tales. It's free.
Yeah, the kids' books
During
are
this
very
Corona time, they made it free.
Right.
So you all can listen to that. It's a lot of lessons from these simple stories. So audible.amazon.com, stories.audible.com, I think. Means you can go and listen. That is great. And I just finished a small book called Trekking in Uttarakhand by Swami Chinmayananda. It's a small book. Before he became a monk, he wanders through these char dhams by foot. That was a good story. And now I restarted the reading on the book Learned Optimism. This book I read sometimes back, but I'm rereading it now. So that's the book I have picked it up.
Who's the author for that?
Learned Optimism is Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman. It is a very, very beautiful book. This book introduces the positive psychology. Positive psychology is a new branch of psychology, because earlier somebody used to go to a psychologist only when there is a problem. But nowadays the psychologists are feeling that psychology should go beyond that. Even if I don't have a problem, how can I improve my well-being? So that is what is this positive psychology. Brilliant subject. And Martin Seligman is a professor in UPenn here. And another book he has written, which is also really, really good. That book is Authentic Happiness. Authentic Happiness. If you read that book, you will see the reflections of Bhagavad Gita in that. So he is going to explain the different types of happiness and what is the everlasting happiness. He arrives at that conclusion through lot of clinical trials and lot of external means of inquiry. But interestingly, it comes to the same point as that of the ancient sages. So another book I would suggest, if you are interested, is Search Inside Yourself. That is, I forgot the author. It is a Google. Yeah. Then Emotional Intelligence More Than IQ, Daniel Goleman. That is a fantastic book. Then Swami Tapovan's couple of books are there. If anybody is interested, that is good.
The Mind Over Medicine book I have shared in the group. It's in the books folder.
Okay, that's great. It's a beautiful book. I think it's a wonderful book. Especially you need to read that. It gives a lot of interesting stories which you can relate with Vedanta. So again, not pressurizing you, but I think for you, even for your brain's health, this is important. Continuous reading, 30 minutes, make it as a habit. Now, if you make a habit, that will stay. Okay, Bhunaji, if you don't mind, would you chant Purnamada? But before that, as always, let's pray for the health of all these healthcare professionals, because it's unbelievably bad outside. So hopefully situations will come to a stable condition. I feel that it is We are closing there very soon. This we will get out of this big threat. I never ever experienced such a situation in my life. I'm sure
I
that's.
was just looking at the Spanish flu time.
Uh-huh.
30 million people died, and 12 million is from India. So at least we can understand those days we did not have any medical advancement, was not there. There was no treatment, no ventilator, nothing. But here we have everything. So that's why we have to be happy with only 100,000 people. That looks like. I was talking to my son also about the Spanish flu. I don't know how it came from, where it came from, but the swine flu was controlled pretty well. But the Spanish flu, they could not do anything in 1918. And that is purely because we are not advanced. But now we have all this and still we are finding new diseases, right? So it's...
Yeah, no, I think now a country like US, which has everything in their hand, we are the best healthcare system in the world, the best infrastructure in the world. It went uncontrolled, and India is doing
that's because of improper planning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there are different reasons, right? But it's really
My daughter has to go to hospital from next week, so she's going to be there for 1 week. She has to attend all the corona patients. They have 1,200 patients in Montevideo Hospital. So then she's going to be quarantining herself, staying in the basement.
Right.
I want all of you to pray for her also.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm sure she will be safe, secure. I will do one thing, like not next week. In next 10 days, I will do one hour session on Mrityunjaya mantra. I will take the mantra.
You told me about that Trayambagam. You will explain. Remember?
Yeah, that's what. So I'll take the Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Pure Muchiyama.
I looked at the meaning. It is.
I'm going to explain that in detail, like very scientifically, what is the meaning, implication.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So we will do a one session. It will be open. We can keep it open to all so that we all can pray, because that's a very powerful mantra which can be used at this stage.
And you just to recap what you said in this today's lecture, the Parinamavada and the Vivadavada, both are said by Shankara because they are two different versions, right?
No. Shankaracharya didn't say Parinamavada. Parinamavada is a Sankhyan theory, right?
Okay.
Sankhya. It is a theory put forth by Sankhya, whereas Nyaya and Vaisheshika supports the Asat. So Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta supports Satkaryavada. Within that Satkaryavada, Sankhyans go with Parinamavada and Vedanta go with Vivartavada.
Vedanta, okay.
So Shankaracharya is a firm supporter of Vivartavada.
Vivartavada, okay. Yeah, I'm not going very deep, but the basic example you gave, that with that I'm trying to understand the two different versions, right? So it cannot be by one person. So I was not sure.
Yeah, it cannot be by one person. It is.
And the other thing also, you mentioned that Atma and Brahman are same. So that means is that the Karana Sharira?
No, Karana Sharira is neither Atma nor Brahman. Karana Sharira is part of, again, causal body. That's what I was explaining earlier.
Yeah, that's I just need little more clarity on that.
I will explain that next week again. We had one talk exclusively on that, but I will next week before we start, we'll spend 5 minutes and talk about Karana.
I'm sorry I joined late.
No.
So I have all this hidden thing.
No, that's perfectly fine.
I'm trying to go back to your YouTube video.
No, this is fine. No, I think if you have anybody has any questions, why don't we just discuss that? Every day we'll spend 10-15 minutes. And once this is done, I'm thinking like we can start Atma Bodha, which is a book, 62 verses. Because what I tried to do was, without depending upon any text, cover all the topic. And now we can go to one Prakarana book, which is Atma Bodha. Then we will go to Isha Upanishad.
Okay.
Rajesh, namaskar. This is Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay.
I am really, I'm just the newcomer for this class, and I really enjoyed this. I have now too many questions, but obviously we are at the top of the hour. So first of all, a request that if I can be added into the WhatsApp group, and if there is a way to share your previous videos, so I can just go back and just check.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sanjay, I'll send you all the links for that.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Rajesh.
One request from a couple of people from the Stelton group.
Uh-huh.
They're saying that when you send the Zoom information, right?
Mhm.
Instead of saying today's class 8:30, like they wanted the date. Like for example, Hari is a doctor, right? He's always looking into other things.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to know that, okay, this date, this class is at 8:30, so he knows exactly.
Bhuvanji, if you go onto the pself.org website, there is a calendar there, and it
Yeah,
shows.
but he doesn't have time, right?
No,
Like
no, no.
I know very.
What I meant to say, what if you go there and if you add that calendar to your phone, you have that. You can add that calendar to your phone. Then your
Oh,
phone calendar will show all the dates
Automatically
of
shows all the
whatever
things.
program we have.
okay, I will let him know. I'll
I
let
think,
him
I
know.
think we can even what we can do is like if for example if everybody is not interested, we have classes almost every day. If one person is interested only in Vedanta class, they can just subscribe to that. We will find a way.
That's what I'm thinking, because he's attending the Gita class
Yep.
Mhm.
and the Vedanta. So I explained to him this morning that Thursday is Vedanta, Tuesday is Gita class. So now
Yeah.
now he's also confused with the deep learning Gita. So I told him that you forget about it. You are in the
This
7th
Sunday.
chapter. That's what right now.
No, that's why I have updated the calendar on
No,
this.
that's good. Do you
Yes, if you
have the calendar link for separate classes, or just it's a basic everything in one?
no, if you add the calendar, it'll tell you everything. So Mondays it'll say, so it'll automatically come on your phone, saying, and it'll even I think you can even set up a reminder for it. So it'll
Oh,
show you Mondays is this, Tuesdays is this, Thursday, Wednesdays is this.
oh.
Everything will come on your
So
phone.
it's this PSL projectself.org, right?
pself.org,
Okay,
pself.org and /calendar.
okay, and add it to your Google Calendar. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to do it, and I'll let him know also.
So
Okay.
Rajesh ji, just a thought.
Yep.
Maybe you might want to consider adding the meeting invite.
Yes, I'm going to do that. I'll set up a page on the website with all the invites for all the classes.
Right.
Yeah.
Then
So
people can
the
subscribe whatever class they want, and
Yeah,
they
they
listen.
can enroll
We'll
themselves
do
there.
a
Yes.
special session in next 10 days because a few people were asking me, even from India, to do a Mrityunjaya mantra explanation 1 hour. So a lot of people are chanting that now. So we will do that very soon. I'm just putting together the material because that's a very powerful mantra. It's from Rudram. So we will see that.
Rajesh ji, could we have one for Gayatri Mantra also eventually?
Yep, we can do that. We can do that for Gayatri mantra also.
Actually, I want, there are different Gayatris for different gods, right? So
Yeah.
I want you to touch that also if possible.
Yeah, I will explain. I'll go with the standard Gayatri mantra, which is as addressed to sun.
Okay.
And then actually there is Rudra Gayatri. There are even multiple Gayatris are there. So I'll touch on that. So
The other thing that everybody can do is,
anything you need like that, just tell me. We will do that.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. There is a forum website that we have, there is a link of the forum also on the P-Self. So any requests that we would want to have Rajesh ji do, we can actually put all the requests in there so that he can pick it up one by one and then he can work on all of those.
And finally, Vikrant is doing aggressively on the Vedanta. So I think 8 there is another class.
Tomorrow morning 7 o'clock.
Is it in English? Because
It's
some
in
of the terminology I can't understand in Hindi.
So
So
it's the same thing. What we are doing here is what is being translated there.
okay, that's good enough.
Yeah. But those who wanted to listen to he's a eloquent
But yeah,
speaker.
he speaks excellent.
So
A fantastic, very powerful speaker.
yeah, very powerful speaker. So you can, if anybody is interested in the Hindi talk, you can always listen.
Rajesh ji, for just a minute on the topic of mantras, it would be fantastic for me personally if there is a 10-15 minutes talk on how to choose an appropriate mantra for yourself based on your type, based on your personality, and
Yep.
based on your situation in life.
Yep. I'll talk. These are all topics, good topics. So we'll collect all those and we'll do that.
My understanding is, instead of choosing a mantra, I think we should adapt ourselves to that mantra. That's what I thought we should do.
Yeah, I think even there are different schools. like I had a very similar conversation with Swami Dayananda.
Interesting.
So I will share what he told.
This is a
Uh,
very
Yeah,
good group. A lot of people have different questions, and I
yeah.
like.
thank you, Bhuvnaji. Yeah, I mean, I struggled with adapting to a mantra, so I have a lot of personal experiences also that I'd like to share whenever
Oh,
we.
very nice. Because I'm like, if you tell me, oh, this is good, I'll just adapt it. That's it.
Okay, no, I'll give my perspective on that because I had a discussion with Swami Dayananda on this topic. He had a wonderful insight on this particular topic, which I will share with you. So Sanjay, from where you're joining? Like, are you in New Jersey?
Yeah. So Arnavji shared that detail, and
Oh,
thank you
okay.
to him actually to introduce me
Okay,
and this
thank
class.
you, Arnav. We
Glad,
want a strong
glad to be
Vedanta.
able to do that. Thank you.
I really want a lot of people to learn Upanishads and the Gita and
Yeah,
also.
because that Sunday timing was not perfect for me. That to come to the center, this really works out very good for me.
Right,
Okay.
right. Okay, thank you. Swanati,
Om.
yeah.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.